Knowing this near universal pattern helps to assess new brands and existing ones.
What don't marketers know?
Quite a lot. Marketers, I actually live in an anything-goes world where the latest fashion or fad drives an awful lot of practice.
Segmentation is the recognition you can't serve everyone with equal satisfaction.
This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome. On today's podcast, we have Associate Professor Re-an Müller. Re-an is an Associate Professor of Marketing Management at Northwest University in South Africa. Re-an is a passionate educator in the university sector, and his teaching philosophy centers on seeing students as much more than just students. In this same vein, Re-an advocates for rewarding excellent educators, and he creates innovative methods for identifying at-risk students, which is no mean feat, given that he teaches across multiple campuses that teach in multiple languages. Re-an's teaching is not just theoretical. He values connecting his students to industry and allowing them to showcase the skills that they develop under his tutorage, with some students even landing full-time jobs afterwards. Re-an leaves us with his hot tips about conference attendance, improving your ability to conduct more meaningful performance reviews, and as always, providing us with words of wisdom. So without further ado, Re-an Müller.
Welcome to the Zac Anesbury Show. Join one of marketing's rising stars, Dr. Zac Anesbury, as he sits down with leading academics and industry experts to explore the latest in marketing research and practice. Each episode features insights from top journal editors, esteemed professors, and professionals from some of the world's biggest brands. Dr. Zac Anesbury is a senior lecturer in marketing at Adelaide University and a senior marketing scientist at the Ehrenberg Bass Institute. Recognized with multiple emerging marketing researcher awards, he also serves as a senior associate editor at the Journal of Consumer Behavior. Tune in to the Zac Anesbury Show for expert perspectives on marketing careers, strategies, and cutting-edge research.
Re-an, welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day. For the audience at home, I'm based in South Australia and Re-an is based in South Africa. So the time difference is not particularly enjoyable for either of us here, but we're going to make it work. So I thought maybe a good way to start would be providing everyone with a bit of an introduction to yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Zac. It's a pleasure. It's early morning here in South Africa. So for everyone watching, my name is Re-an Müller. I'm currently the Deputy Director for the School of Management Sciences here at the Northwest University in South Africa, and also an Associate Professor in Marketing.
So which city are you based in then in South Africa?
Our campus is currently in Vanderbijl Park. It's just south of Johannesburg.
Oh, very nice. So there's not too bad from an airport sort of perspective?
No, not at all. I think we're about an hour away from an airport.
That sounds pretty good, actually. So you've obviously made a whole heap of different career moves throughout, your time in academia. But when did you feel like you wanted to get started in marketing? Was there anything in particular, maybe in childhood or maybe through like school or something like that?
High school, where you need to decide what you want to do with your life. I didn't really have a clue. So I went to see this career counselor and he advised marketing because it's so broad and wide, and I just went with it. I think when I really realized marketing is something I'm going to enjoy and love is during my second year, we had a course, Consumer Behavior, and that holds consumer psychology and the way consumers' minds work. That's when it really grabbed me.
So it wasn't anything when you were a bit younger. It was really, so year 12, were you doing business type subjects then that helped your career counselor nudge you towards that degree?
No, not at all. I actually shied away from accounting. I had accounting, but I didn't enjoy accounting. So I had technical drawing. I had science, maths. They talk about the big six, which opens your career choices here in South Africa. So I had standard six subjects.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I didn't know, from my perspective, I didn't know I wanted to get into marketing, but I knew I wanted to get into something in business, and my parents had always told me that I would be an accountant when I was older. So yeah, unlike you, I actually did the accounting degree, or part of it, and I wasn't super cut out for that one. I think it's certain type of people for accounting. So you found
for
yourself...
a very long time in high school, I actually wanted to become an architect because I do have
Cool.
a creative side to me, and I think that's also why the marketing appeals. There's a lot of creativity in there.
Yeah. And so you're in this consumer behavior class in your university. What in that made you think, I want to continue and keep going?
Just how consumers' minds work. And there was a whole section on brand personality. And that intrigued me so much. I ended up doing my PhD on brand personality.
Yeah, that's right.
And how to change a brand and construct a brand so that it becomes a person in consumers' minds.
Absolutely. So you went to Northwest University and you studied a Bachelor of Commerce, International Trade and Marketing there. So you did that between 2005 and 2007. So I guess I have a couple of questions there. The university in particular, I don't know much about the South African higher education system to begin with. Was there a particular reason you selected that university?
It was close to home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely true as well. So, like, we're based at the University of South Australia, and we have campuses that are in the city naturally, and we have campuses that are located on the outskirts as well. And some of them are rural, like Whyalla and Mount Gambier. And the reason for that is exactly what you said, right? So some students want to stay at home, or maybe it's financially beneficial for them, or they have to take care of siblings or parents or grandparents. That's maybe where their employment currently is. And so being able to access a campus close by to where they live is definitely one of those key reasons they select a university. So completely understand there. And your degree, was that a double degree or a singular degree with a long name?
It was a singular degree with a long name. So there were two major focus areas of the degree. There was a lot of marketing and the international trade also up until your final year, but no one degree.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure because I think I did Bachelor of Management Marketing. And yeah, they've changed that now. I think it's called a Bachelor of Business Marketing, that same degree here. Universities always...
They've also changed a lot of our degrees names since, I think 2018, we had a whole restructure of the PKM. So now if you want to study marketing in our at our campus, it's BCom in Management Sciences with Marketing.
So yeah, if you're South African, you could be doing a postgraduate, or you could be in high school there. Definitely that's the degree to enroll in. So when you're enrolled in a marketing degree, but obviously it's attached to other disciplines within business. Did you have to do introduction to accounting there, something like an economics part of it, like a management course? Was there like a set of core courses that you have to do at this university?
Yes. In South Africa, there's a system that governs all Bachelor of Commerce degrees. So in your first year, you must be introduced to all those core business aspects. So there's accounting, there's economics, and there's business management. And then after that, in your second year, you get to specialize. Then the marketing modules come in, and you still continue then either with economics or accounting or business management, depending on the degree. So you can't choose which ones to add. With my specific degree, I had business management up until my final year, and then economics till my second year. Yeah. But no accounting past my first year.
Yeah. So, and did you appreciate being able to a little bit of knowledge in each of these different areas? Was that something you valued in hindsight, or you wish you just did more?
In hindsight, at the time, I didn't. In hindsight, I do. Yes, yeah. I understand now the reasoning behind it. Back then, it didn't make sense.
Absolutely. I mean, you might agree with me or not. I'm not quite sure, but because we have quite a lot of. I teach the big marketing principles course here, hundreds of students, and the minority of them are actually marketing students. And the story I tell them, which I think is really valuable, is you all undertake the fundamental courses for all of these different business disciplines, so you can all speak the same language. And when you're actually out in the real world, you know why the accountant is talking to you in this language. What does the terms mean? How does this act on a balance sheet? Same things with economics, like what's going on. That's kind of my perspective anyway. And so I kind of then view my role as the lecturer and the person who runs the course as I am teaching marketing students and I need to give them the fundamentals so they can continue throughout their program. But I also have to train everyone else that they will work with and get them to appreciate what the marketers that they will work with will eventually be asking them or why they're asking for certain things.
No, definitely. I can't agree with you more. I think a business can't function in silos, and you need to have an understanding of the other departments and how they function.
Yeah, exactly. Because you won't just operate within your small little team, that's for sure. Even with the entry level roles in industry, you will have to deal with people in other departments. I mean, I certainly do, just even with, and you would as well, just even within the university sector, like, you attend sort of finance meetings, or you have to understand how the budgets all work and how big macroeconomic things sort of work with, trade relations with Chinese students or Indian students, for example. That's really kind of fascinating. So you did your undergraduate degree and you must have fallen in love, as you said, with marketing through the consumer behavior courses, especially. So you decided to continue. You did a postgraduate certificate in education, and that was to be an accredited assessor. Provide me with a little bit of details here. I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
Okay, yes. So that's one of that turns that my life took that I didn't understand at the time. But in hindsight, I totally get everything happens for a reason. So I graduated in 2008. I'm sure you felt it over in Australia as well. It was during the massive economic recession. So I was hungry to get into industry. I had job interviews lined up, and then the recession came and they froze all positions. And I was stuck at home without a job. My mom has been a teacher her whole life. And she recommended, okay, but while you wait, why don't you start teaching? There's always a need for teachers. So in order to get the teaching position where I started, I had to enroll for the postgraduate certificate in education. That was a part-time qualification. So I taught during the morning from 8 to 2 o'clock. And then in the afternoon, I had my PGCE classes, as they call them.
Okay. Where were you teaching at the university, or were you teaching secondary school?
No, I was teaching school kids.
Oh, okay.
And I must say, I had quite an interesting journey. The first teaching role I had was at Ramalele Secondary School. Ramalele Secondary School is a farm school, as they call it here in South Africa. So it's outside town, and I was only teaching to African students. I was the only white person on the premises, and I can't explain to you how much I learned during those times. So I taught there for, I think, about a year, and there I taught subjects from English, science. I taught accounting. When I ended up at the school, I told the principal, no, I didn't have accounting. He's like, you've got a BCom, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I literally had to wait for extra lessons. I was 1 week ahead of them in the syllabus.
Yeah. And how old were your students at this time?
I taught from grade 9 to 12, so anything from 15 years to 18, roughly.
Yeah. Wow. So do you reckon that really helped you to then transition to teaching it in the university sector? Did you pick up skills at that point that you were like, would not have done or wouldn't have realized that otherwise?
A couple of years back, I did a teaching and learning portfolio where I had to sit down and construct my philosophy, my teaching philosophy. Yeah. And then I realized the foundation for that philosophy started in that farm school, because the first sentence of my philosophy is content in context. So if I were to explain to those students something about marketing, a big brand, they were not familiar with the brands. They didn't know what I was talking about. So I had to bring it down to, okay, let's talk about the tuck shop. You guys know the tuck shop, or the taxi that brought you to school. So during that time, I learned how to put content within context, because the moment the student has the context, the understanding of the content flows automatically.
And that's something that that's pretty amazing that you were able to pivot and then apply what you know to the local context that your students would know. Do you do that when you're talking to the university students as well? Like, what percentage of the students at your university would be South African? Do you get many international students, or?
At our institution, we'll have 98% South African students.
Okay. Because
here and there, you'll have an international student, and the international students are usually postgraduate students, not undergrad.
Because I was just thinking when you were saying that, it's very much the same. Especially when I first started teaching within the university sector, it was usually a lot of Australian examples of brands and even South Australian examples, because naturally we have localized retailers and chocolate bars and stuff like that. And an international student came up to me after one of the classes and they said, love your enthusiasm. I think you're great at getting across the examples. I don't know what the brands are that you're talking about. And I was like, it just struck to me that I was a little bit too self-contained in my own little world. And I really then went back to over the years and through my teaching content, I'll provide, Australian brand examples, and I won't just look at the United States or the United Kingdom or something. I'll try to bring in Chinese examples and Indian examples and Malaysian examples and Vietnamese examples, because we get a lot of students from those countries. And exactly what you're saying, as soon as you said that content in context, I think that's an amazing saying. I really like it. I'm gonna borrow that one if you don't mind.
By all means, go ahead.
I think that's absolutely great. I can only imagine what it's like trying to teach people who are 15. Do you think that they differ to your undergraduate and postgraduate students in the way that they learn, or people are people? What are your thoughts there?
To be brutally honest, I think the school kids, when I was back teaching, they just wanted to get through the day, get through school. I think when you get to undergraduate, that they get a bit more focused. I must say the postgraduate students are my favorite, because they really know what they want and where they are heading. Yeah. So no, I don't think people are people. I think they tend to get more focused and find their way along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess your brain is still developing during those years at that point, and your life evolves a little bit more. So yeah, I guess it is natural that they're going to be a bit more focused, that older people are going to be as well. You touched on scholarship of teaching and learning. Is that right? Is that a big factor now in South African universities?
At our universities, definitely, and I think it should be. I think the scholarship of teaching and learning is so valuable. In our faculty, we actually have a whole research team just focusing on the scholarship of teaching and learning, to do research on how should we change the way we teach, and is the way we are teaching effective or not. Myself didn't get involved in scholarship of teaching and learning. My research has always been consumer perceptions, but yes, in the faculty there's a big focus on scholarship of teaching and learning as well.
So does that involve courses that staff are encouraged to undertake in personal development?
Part of it involves courses, but the focus area I'm talking about now specifically does research on scholarship of teaching and learning. I know they've got a big focus area on accounting and how to better develop certain competencies, because in South Africa we've got something called SAICA, which is the South African Institute for Chartered Accountants. And there's a certain set of competencies that the student need to have by the end of their degree. Then within this research focus area, they zoom in on certain competencies and how to better teach them.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of fascinating area and something that I knew nothing about. So is it till about 2 years ago when I did a course in this? Has it been a focus for you guys for quite a while then, by the sounds of it? It's all new to me. I found it kind of fascinating to research, or the fact that there was research into how people learn. And when you say it aloud, it kind of makes sense that there is.
And I think that's also a big gap in a lot of academic institutions. One employ these subject experts, but they don't necessarily have that teaching background. So in our university specifically, we've got something called CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and they offer continuous professional development courses specifically aimed at how you teach and how to assess and stuff like that. Because yes, you want the industry expert and all the knowledge, but if you can't transfer that to the students, it's kind of senseless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, we've all had through our undergraduates and everything like that. We've all had good and great and exceptional lecturers. We've also had a few that we wish were a little bit more enthusiastic about their own content, perhaps. If they could be the best, right? They could be the number one researcher in the world at what they do. But if they can't engage an audience and especially in like a lecture sort of format where you have people captive for 2 hours, you're sort of doomed. You're not going to be able to get that across. So I actually think it's worthwhile in some sense. And we have similar courses here within our university as well. And when you're talking about your teaching philosophy, that's something that we were kind of encouraged to reflect on as well. The way I think my teaching philosophy basically boiled down to not treating students as students, but seeing them as humans. And I thought that was a humanizing a student rather than just like a lot of the time anonymous names that pop up in email addresses or their assessments get submitted. It means that you realize that, they have other priorities in their life. They have other problems in their life. They do get unwell, they have conflicts with people in their life. And that life is difficult and messy, and we should err on the side of, graciousness, I suppose, and be quite, generous, I guess, in allowing them. Because at the end of the day, my only want is to teach them something. And if they're slightly late, that doesn't bother me as much as if they didn't learn. I don't know.
I can relate so much with what you're saying. I think at the beginning of my career, and this is going to sound horrible, but I looked at students as products that I need to deliver.
Yeah.
And when I made the mind shift to look at them like you describe now as human beings and how they learn and how I can enhance the learning, the end results boomed. To maybe carry on regarding my teaching philosophy, again, I didn't know anything about teaching philosophies. And then I realized what I'm actually doing is authentic learning. So I don't know if you're familiar with the term authentic learning. It's where you put content in real life situations, real life examples. So that ended up with me contacting local companies. They come with a problem to class, presented to the students, and they need to solve that real life problem. And we assess them on that. At the end of the day, they presented their marketing plans or whatever they developed for the company at the end of the semester, and that was their main assignment mark.
Is that sort of students towards the end of their program?
Yes, that's the final year.
Yeah, nice. I love that sort of stuff. Have you found that students have gotten jobs as a result?
Yes. Yes, some of our students were employed by the companies that they pitched to.
It's always a good endorsement that you're doing a good job when, they see your product essentially at the end of it, human being products, but that, that they are, intelligent and bring value to the company, but also, they're good people as well. Because at the end of the day, like when you work for a company, other people have to work with you, and that human aspect of it, I think, is so valuable. Are you going to work with someone? All things equal, are you going to want to work with someone who's a joy to be around, or someone who's a bit miserable and brings down the energy levels? I think that's an obvious choice there. So you took that year out for the 2008 to basically hone in on your teaching skills, which I think is really kind of cool, actually. I sort of saw the certificate there, but the backstory behind it is really fascinating. But you then decided honours is the way to go. And so you went back to Northwest University and enrolled in an honours program. Explain how that program works at your university. I'm not quite sure.
I was teaching for that 1 year when I did my PGCE. And then I moved to another school, and after that also to another school. So in total, I taught at 3 different schools. But while teaching or being a teacher at the schools, I enrolled for the BCom Honours. It was a part-time program. So we only had classes on a Wednesday and a Thursday from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And then a bunch of assignments that went along with it. So a BCom Honours is what comes after the normal BCom and before you can do your master's degree here in South Africa. Yes, we do have some 4-year programs, but within my school or faculty, we don't. So you have to do that honours before you can move to masters. So I was doing the BCom Honours while teaching, and I actually enrolled for my Masters also still while teaching. Towards the end of, I think, the third year teaching, I saw the job advert at the university for a junior lecturer. And while sitting in that interview, the light bulb went off. Okay, so this is why I had to become a teacher, because then I had sufficient experience to support me to get the job.
So it was like one of those, moments that was supposed to happen. And yeah, that's really cool. So your honours degree, it was course based, or was it research based, or a bit of both?
A bit of both. So you've got your course modules. I think there were 3 modules per semester, and then there was a big year module which was your research based.
Gotcha.
And during that year, you kind of develop your proposal to move into masters, and you do a small, like a pre-test. You just touch on stats. In hindsight, it can't really count as research, but it was a sufficient introduction.
Was there a thesis involved?
A proposal.
Okay, a proposal. Okay.
Yeah, so about 15 to 20 pages.
Yeah, if it's written well, that's hard to do. We don't have honours anymore. When we're going through a bit of a merger at the moment, and the new university in 2026 will, but it was 8 months, and the first 4 months was research training, and then the second 4 months was thesis, and it got sent out to assessors, and it didn't work so well because research is difficult and it involves a lot of thinking, as you know, and to do proper thinking is just impossible in a 4-month period of time. So, and the ethics system at the time was also very, very slow. One of my colleagues, Professor Re-an Müller, has massively overhauled it and fixed it, but it took very long. So yeah, we had all sorts of pain issues with it. So I was glad to see the end of it. I was the second to last cohort at my one. But yeah, so you got a distinction there. I'm guessing that means kind of like similar to a first class honours.
I'm not sure. It's above 75%.
Oh,
yeah, very nice. I think it's very similar there.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned, okay, you used to have honours, now you don't. Yes. What's the structure currently?
Good question. So within the business school anyway, or within our marketing department, we have undergrads who work with us quite extensively as research assistants. And so we give them quite a lot of research training along the way. When they're in between their first and second year, or second and third year, sometimes at the end of their third, we'll give them an intensive 6-week training program that we call the Summer Vacation Scientists. So they get a scholarship. It's about 375 Australian dollars every week, tax-free, which is always nice. And they work with us for 4 days, 6 hours a day, and they get real hands-on training there's about 7 staff here, and we sort of take it in turns week by week to do it. And all of that gives them enough research training that they move to what is our Masters by Research. So rather than a Masters by Coursework, they just skip that honours year, do a 2-year Masters by Research, and we probably get 20% of those Masters by Research who continue to do a PhD, and about 80% of them who are like, loved research, really appreciated my time here, but I want to move into industry. So yeah, no honours. We just skip from undergrad to Masters.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned now they do Masters by Research. Is there also an option to do Masters by modules or teaching?
Yeah. So there's a Masters by Coursework. We typically find they are the postgraduate students who have done another course that's like maybe accounting or management or something like that, and they're looking to change disciplines. We wouldn't ever recommend someone do an undergraduate marketing degree and then a postgraduate coursework marketing degree. They would basically be learning the same thing, but in a lot more difficult assessments. They'd cover the concepts in a lot more depth. The difference between undergraduate and postgraduate. But yeah, the Masters by Coursework wouldn't get them into a PhD program.
Okay, so you wouldn't recommend it, but it's still possible to do that. Or not?
I have. I found out some weird stuff about what is possible at the university, that's for sure. I've recently heard of a student who was 6 weeks into a course, a specific course, before realizing that they had already completed the course. So that's the same course. I thought that was pretty funny when I heard about that one. I have also heard of someone I know of 2 students specifically who have done the undergraduate and then the postgraduate. One was a guy that I actually did my undergraduate degree with. And then I taught him. I was tutoring and I taught him as one of my students in one of my tutorials in the undergraduate program. And then I was his lecturer and course coordinator in the postgraduate one. And I thought he would fly by and absolutely smash it. Not so much. He did very well, but I would have thought he would have gotten, high distinctions and everything because it's the same kind of similar, harder content, but same concepts. So it is absolutely possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. Like in South Africa, it's not possible at all in my institution. The minimum requirements is quite strict. So if you want to go into marketing, you had to have marketing undergrad. But it was quite interesting. I recently visited Romania, and there it's possible to switch completely. You can do an engineering degree and do a master's in marketing. There is, however, a admittance exam, and you need to pass that exam. Yeah, I just found that quite interesting. I think our system is very limited.
Yeah, you hear the quirks of every sort of university system you hear has their own little quirks, I suppose. So you went into masters. So are you saying that was more coursework, or was that a research masters?
That was a research masters.
Yeah, got you. And that was building on the proposal that you developed in your honours.
That was the plan, but when I started really diving in, I remembered about the whole consumer psychology thing. So then I steered away from what I did in honours. So initially I had to do a lot of additional work because I had to start the proposal from scratch. But in hindsight, I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, your thesis was called "The Influence of Color on the Consumer Behavior of Gen Y Students in the Vaal Triangle."
Vaal Triangle, yes, that's a specific region here in South Africa.
What I'm assuming you found some cool findings.
Yeah,
it was a while ago.
I think I did, but it's about 12 years ago, 10 years ago.
So you did well there. So I'm guessing you must have fallen in love with the research aspect. So, you got that really nudged by your career counselor in high school to say, Re-an, do, a marketing degree. This sounds like a good career. You fell in love with teaching through your, that 2008 period, did honours, kind of learnt those research skills, did masters, produced a thesis. Is it that point that you were like, research sounds really interesting to me, something I'm capable of doing? Is that am I getting the story there, timeline right?
To be brutally honest, I really didn't enjoy my masters.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the whole research thing during the master's degree, it was very, let's say, surface research. Back then I did a lot of descriptives. I had this idea of, okay, I'm going to dive into the consumer's minds, but the master didn't really deliver on it. That's also maybe the reason why it took so long to really get into my PhD. I enrolled for my PhD the following year, but it really took a long time. I think I worked on the proposal for like a year and a half before I really got traction again. So to answer your question, where the love of research came in, I think it was during the PhD. And only during the data analysis portion of it, I did a mixed method approach. So during the qualitative focus group sections, that's when it ticked. Okay, this research thing is something I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah. So you did qualitative research there. So you're interacting with people and you quite enjoyed that part.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here with you, actually. I mean, you fell in love with teaching aspect when you started teaching, young people, and then once again through your research, it seems like you really love being around people and having it, like, understanding them and having an impact on them. It's pretty cool. So you did that over like a 4-year period. Is that or is it just the way that the dates lined up there?
It was about 4 years. I think I handed in 2016, graduated 2017. It was relatively long. I actually got my warning letters because, as I said, it took a long time for me to get started. On average here in South Africa, they do a PhD over 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's
so
pretty
me
quick.
taking 4 years was taking a bit long.
Yeah, that is pretty quick. Is there scholarships attached to these?
Yes, we actually do have my scholarships, and then they only do PhD. We've got like master's degree students who complete a master's over 1 year and PhD over 2 years. But then it's a working, they do some work for the department, but majority of their time they spend on their masters.
Yeah. Is that work things like tutoring, for example?
Tutoring, helping to mark, student assistant in classes.
Yeah, all this stuff.
I think it was capped at 12 or 15 hours a week when I had students going through this program.
I find that stuff so valuable because otherwise you get through your master's and you get through your PhD and then you're trying to hit the job market. And if you don't have those runs on the board in terms of, I know how to mark, higher education level assessments. I know how to navigate all of their websites and their complex bureaucracy of forms that all organizations have. I know how to interact with cohorts of students through being a teaching assistant or a tutor. Like, you need to have those runs on the board. Otherwise, you could CV might not even make it through the desk rejection, let alone an interview.
That's true.
I'm very all of the masters and PhD students. I have very much encouraged them to get involved in tutoring for sure, and whatever sort of commercial research. So to work with any of our sponsors, it's that balancing act, right? So needing to find time to do it, to allocate on your thesis, and then allocate for your teaching, and then everything else. So it's actually a huge skill for them to develop as well. Is how can I manage this huge portfolio of work and satisfy many masters in some sense, because they're quite often different people. So you've got some really cool, so we've spoken a lot about your education and how you got into the university sector. You have some really interesting progressions, I think, within the university. And the one question I had to begin with was, so you did your undergraduate at Northwest University and then, honors, master's, PhD, and now you work there, right?
That's true.
So similar. I've never moved either.
This year, in essence, is my 20th year on this campus.
Wow. And I'm guessing your family still lives nearby, and that was the reason you enrolled in this place?
My mom used to live around here for my whole life. I think she moved away 2 years ago to live close to my sister. But yes.
How far away is that?
It's about 2.5 hours away.
Okay. Is there a university there?
No.
Bugger. Why have you? Because there's, as you look around for a lot of different academics, you see some people who seem to move a lot, and then you see people who have moved not at all. People like me and you. Why have you stayed at the one university? Is it for a specific reason, or and obviously there's pros and cons of each way.
I think that's a difficult question to answer. For me, it's twofold. In South Africa, you've got your, let's say, I don't want to say rural, but you're more, my English word for it's plaaslik. Let's stick to rural universities, not in big cities. And then you've got your big universities that's in Johannesburg or Pretoria. And I actually grew up on a farm in the Free States, far away from everything. I'm not a happy person if I'm in traffic. So I think that's one of the main reasons I wouldn't move to like Johannesburg. And as I mentioned, in South Africa, you've got your rural universities like Northwest, and there's one in Bloemfontein, but that's very far away. So if I want to kind of remain in the same region I'm currently at, I need to travel to Johannesburg, and then I'm going to sit in traffic 2-3 hours a day.
Wow.
So I think that that's part of it. And I must say I really like the culture where I'm currently at. And yes, I've been at the same faculty for the past 14 years, but there has been so many institutional changes that it really doesn't feel like I've been at the same place for 14 years. I started off, when I started working here, the School of Economics and Management was one school. Then we split into management sciences, I think, at about 2018. So that, in essence, felt like moving job to a new portion of the institution.
It's interesting you should say that because, yeah, I agree. Sometimes, because I've been here at the same place now for quite a while, and yeah, you're right. Every time there's these big structural changes, often implemented by vice chancellors, it does feel like a different place at times. I think what also you might feel is you haven't stagnated, and I think that's what's kind of really amazing is you're in the same institution, but they've constantly provided you with opportunities to grow. I mean, that's what I'm seeing anyway. So, I mean, I guess that helps to retain you there.
No, definitely.
Yeah, because I don't think. I mean, I would hate to stagnate. I would really hate it to begin with. So you started your career there after. I mean, actually, before you finished your PhD. So during your PhD, you're a junior lecturer and researcher. What sort of roles and responsibilities does that position hold?
Okay, so in our institution, we've got 4 main KPIs that you need to contribute towards. When you're at junior lecturer or lecturer level, obviously the teaching and learning is a bit more, but there's always a research component to that. So during those years, majority of my time went into teaching and learning. Yes, the researchers added there, but the focus was teaching and learning during those years.
And then I'm guessing once you've finished your PhD, you get almost like a mini promotion to lecturer. Is that how it works?
Yes. It used to be automatic. Like when I got the job as junior lecturer just with an honours degree. The moment I got my master's degree, it was an automatic promotion to lecturer. And when I got my PhD, it was an automatic promotion to senior lecturer. Since then, they did change it. So now there's other requirements and publications that needs to be in place and supervision. Yeah. So the bar has been raised, but I was lucky still to move automatically just with the qualification.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I was going to ask you, I mean, you still might even know actually, what is the promotion process kind of like it in South African universities? Is it, that you obviously, if you're a balanced sort of academic where you have teaching and research, it's, I'm guessing, quality and quantity of publications and then making sure students are satisfied. Is that about it, or?
I think it's difficult to answer that as a blanket for South Africa. I think it differs from institution to institution. But in our institution, there's specific guidelines, a procedure promotion document that outlines exactly what you need to achieve to move from each level to the next. They do encourage a balanced profile. However, the 2 main profiles is the teaching and learning and research. And as you move up in the ranks, the research does weigh a bit more.
Yeah, that is something you do tend to see is universities, as much as they are about educating students and producing high quality graduates, they do reward research a little bit more than teaching. So we were similar in culture in that way as well. And I can't exactly remember when it changed, but they created specific teaching orientated career paths and promotion. And so we've finally got I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, we finally got our full professor who only teaches, which I thought was pretty remarkable. So even once they made the policy change, that effect still took 5 or 6 years, I think, to actually implement. But it was really nice to see because we have some brilliant teaching focused staff, and it's good to see them actually rewarded for everything that they do.
I think that's something that's lacking across the board. Our good teaching and learning staff is not being recognized as well as they should. I think partly because it's so difficult to really measure teaching and learning success. Module difficulty differs, student intake differs. But yes, in our institution, it is possible, but it's extremely difficult. If you've got that research up there, it's just so much easier to get promoted. Interesting, when I moved to my role now, I like to have really deep conversations with staff and ask them interesting questions. And I think last year, one of the questions I asked them were, what's the one thing that you wish you could tell yourself at the beginning of your career? Let's say 90% of them said, really realize how important research is. To focus more on research earlier in your career.
Do they elaborate on because it's a momentum game, or publications take forever, right? You come up with an idea and maybe in 3 years' time you get an acceptance.
Exactly that. And as you move up in the ranks, you realize how important the research portfolio is. And that's not something you can start building overnight. I'm
always going on adjacent questions, but so when you're assessing the quality of publications within your university, we in Australia, we differ on the list that we use, but there's a blanket list that's called the Australian Business Deans Council list, and it gets updated every 3 years. So the next one's due at the end of this year in November, December, and it will be called the ABDC 2025, which is weird because it's released in November. It's usually released around ANZMAC time, and we have C, B, A, and A stars. And usually, if we publish an A star or A level journals, we're all good. Do you have a rankings list, or what rankings list do you tend to focus on?
We've got something similar in South Africa called the DHET list.
DHET.
Department of Higher Education. So that list includes lists like Web of Science, the Norwegian list, and then certain journals from which the South African department also identified local journals. They do not look at the different tiers like Q1, Q2, Q3. As long as you publish on that list, it's sufficient for the universities.
Is this a publicly available list?
Yes, and it gets updated every year.
Okay, I might have a quick look at that because I'm across the Chartered Business Association list, the one that the British use, because I tend to write and co-author with some of them. Their list is quite restrictive, actually. That it makes it harder to write with them because they're only aiming for like these real top journals. But yeah, I'll have a look at that because I find that quite fascinating. Figuring out how everyone else has to operate is, it really is quite fascinating. So thank you for sharing that.
They are trying to really push the Q2 and Q1. Like if you do publish in a Q3 or Q4, the university is not going to pay for the publication fees. And if they do pay, you really need to write a motivation as to why you didn't publish in Q1 or Q2.
So that's to make it open access?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you get like rewarded for publications in any way?
Yes, we do.
Is it cash money or is it PD funds, like professional development funds? Or
we've got something in the institution called IRECO funds. So you get rewarded for publications 2 years. Like this year, we got rewarded for publication from 2022. And that money goes into a certain account, and then you can use that account to advance your research or to go to a conference. You can take, I think, 50% of that money out, but you do get taxed on that as well.
Yeah, that's the harsh thing, right? If you were to be paid in cash, it kind of almost has a detrimental effect because while you can use it for personal expenses like paying off your mortgage or your rent or whatever, you will get taxed on it. So
do you have a similar system?
Yeah, very much. So it's called Research Incentive Scheme, I think that it's called at the moment. And it's capped at 20,000 Australian dollars. And you get, I can't remember, if you get one of the A-star journals, I think it's $4,500. But it's divided by the number of authors within your institution. So if I have 4 authors, then I get $1,125 or something like that. So it's good and bad because they want you to collaborate, but it's a disincentive to collaborate. But I guess it's an incentive to collaborate externally. Yeah, but yeah, it works out okay. We're having, at the moment. So yeah, we use it to go to ANSMAC so I can meet wonderful people like you, and share my research with people. That's kind of what I primarily use it for. But otherwise, some other people use it for data collection. What else have people used it for?
We've also moved into using a lot of it for data collection. Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you've got this awesome position as senior lecturer, and then you've moved to program leader for marketing management, and you did that role for about 5 years. Now, I'm assuming that means that you've gone from running your courses to running and managing the faculty who run all of the courses. Is that right?
Okay, so within my school, we've got 4 main programs. We've got our business management program, our marketing management, sport management, and safety management. Marketing management is offered across all 3 of our campuses, as well as the business management. So the role of that person, or the program leader, is then to ensure that everything within the marketing degree, or the BCom marketing degree, is in line, helps with all the reporting, ensures for intercampus alignment, because at the end of the day, the students are getting the same degree. So someone needs to manage that alignment, that they do get offered the same content. Okay,
and do you have a role in, so that's less of teaching and it's more about making sure there's compliancy, I guess, and quality control. So does that involve managing staff at that point?
Yes, you do manage your staff that lectures the marketing modules within your department. Yeah. And usually when you move into that role, you do get a slight teaching load reduction because there's more admin involved.
Yes. Yeah, that's, I think, very similar. So we have a role called program director, and I think that sounds like a very similarity. We don't have multiple campuses, though. That does sound a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's probably one of our biggest challenges.
How far away are these campuses from each other?
So ours is in Gauteng. Then we've got one in Potchefstroom, which is about, let's say, an hour away from me. Yeah. Then we've got one in Mahikeng, which is basically on the border of Botswana. So to drive from my campus to Mahikeng is about a 3-4 hour trip.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge is the student populations differ tremendously. On our campus, we've got like a healthy mix. It's sort of like the South African population. At Potchefstroom, they've marketed or positioned themselves as an Afrikaans institution. So there's a lot of Afrikaans-speaking students, and they also offer a lot of their classes in Afrikaans, which is one of the local languages. And then in Mahikeng, again, they actually have a lot of international students from Botswana coming in, and they only offer in English.
Gotcha.
And you can imagine if you want to do that content in context, it's 3 different contexts, so it really becomes challenging.
I speak one language, and I can't understand. I'm always in awe of people who are bilingual. That's for sure. Is that something you grow up with in South Africa? You speak English and Afrikaans?
Yes, in South Africa, I think it's standard for people to speak at least 2 languages. It's part of our school syllabus as well. You have a first language and a second language.
Okay.
But,
and then
I must say, I was blown away during my recent trip to Romania. I met people who's lecturing in 3 languages. Like the one guy who hosted us, Prof. Dabijova, he lectures in English, in German, and in Romanian. It blows my mind. Yes, I'm bilingual, but I'll struggle to lecture in Afrikaans. I studied my whole life in English.
Yeah, and then so how does that work if you're like, it's the same course and it's in 2 different languages? Does the textbook or your teaching materials, they're translated, I assume?
The textbook don't get translated. Usually at first year level, there is translated textbooks available. But moving to second and third year level, they use the English textbook. The lecturer teaches in Afrikaans, or if the lecturer can't teach in Afrikaans, there's a talk. So the students sit with earpieces and they can follow in Afrikaans.
Wow.
Our tests and assessments all get translated.
Yeah. That's a logistical. I'm pretty impressed.
It's challenging, but yes, I think that's one of the main selling points, specifically for our Potchefstroom campus. I think currently we're one of the few institutions in South Africa that do offer that.
Yeah, and I guess it means, I could be wrong, but it makes education more accessible because you're offering it in multiple languages. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I grew up with not much at all, and education thoroughly changed my life. The ability to learn knowledge and to, I guess that creates value as for yourself in the marketplace. I'm a real big component of education, so I think it's wonderful that this is happening.
No, it's awesome. Every year I get goosebumps during our graduation ceremonies when there's students coming up on the stage, and the backstory. This is the first person in that family who not only went to high school but actually graduated, and to see the tears rolling and the families cheering. Education changes lives.
And you're right. So it's not just that one, graduate, it's their entire current family. And then it's going to have an intergenerational effect. So their children are going to have a more educated father or mother in their household, and they'll be able to educate their children a little bit better, and so on and so forth. Like it's the thing that, same as you. It's the thing that really, it makes me proud of the profession, is that we do play a very small part in someone's life, but that hopefully has a ripple effect. And I guess that flows back to that, we're not teaching students, we're teaching humans, like a teaching philosophy that we were talking about earlier. So you then got the position of Associate Professor. So you said the others you didn't have to go through a promotion process for. Was this one, did you have to go through a process?
Yes. I think it was during that time when they changed the procedure. So every year by April, there's a formal application form that you need to fill in, whether you move to lecturer, senior lecturer, associate prof, or full professor. So during that time, there was a big, long form. I must say, I wasn't prepared for the admin behind that. You think you've got a CV and then you've got that form to complete. Luckily, you only do it once, and then as you progress, like every year, if I do something, I just update my form for the next promotion. Yeah. So yes, that was a whole process you had to go through. I think during that time, my teaching and learning played a huge role in moving into the associate prof position, because for very long, also one of the things I would have liked to tell myself way back is focus more on research. I did a bunch of conferences, but journal articles was also always on the back burner. And when I got to that point in the promotion process, I actually need more publications.
Okay. I mean, you must have been successful getting through the process. How big is this form that you had to fill out?
When you're done with it, it's about 30, 40 pages.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's an administrative nightmare. And compiling all of those facts that they want to know, like student evaluation scores, I'm assuming something like that. And
community involvement, committees you're on, all conferences you're presented, exams or external examinations you've done, moderation you've done. It's an admin nightmare, as you say.
So it opens in April, or you submit in April, and then how long does the committee kind of sit on this application before you know whether you're successful or
not? That's a nerve-wracking exercise. So you submit April. If you're doing to senior lecturer or lecturer promotions, you get the feedback fairly quickly, like it's within a month. But if you're moving to associate prof, you wait a good while. This year, yesterday we celebrated promotions within my department, which heard end of last week. So you only hear end October, November what the outcome was.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, ours is very similar. So they close end of June, early July. And then I think people found out roughly 3 weeks ago. And that's regardless of what level you're getting promoted to. And it gives them enough time to, sometimes they want to do interviews with candidates if they want to clarify anything in the application or whatever. Do you guys have any sort of like any interview process, or it's all just on paper?
Up to associate professor is only on paper, but once you move to full professor, there's an interview involved.
Oh, everyone has an interview.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, it's quite a lot, isn't it? I remember, so went through from level B, which is lecturer for us, to level C, the senior lecturer role. And it was, so we didn't have 30 to 40 pages. It was, you constrained to 5 pages, which sounds like a little bit less work, but trying to get everything into 5 pages and not lose context and detail was pretty challenging.
We also have a form like that. So you've got the long one, and then there's a summary document, which you're constricted to, I think, 2 pages.
2 pages.
So that the committee only look at those 2 pages, and if they've got further questions, they refer to the bigger document.
They better be the best 2 pages you've ever written at that point, right? I really feel for people, and then it makes you a bit stressed about going for promotion again, because between that submission point and you finding out that you have or haven't been successful, it's a bit of an uneasy period, that's for sure. It's probably a polite way of putting it. That state of unknown is not good. I know there's some other universities, I can't remember which one, but their whole process is in a month, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's a little bit more, I don't know, more pleasant for the applicant, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Perfect. So you got through to associate professor, which is really kind of cool. And now you've found your found your way to your current role, which is deputy director. So that's kind of, I'm guessing that's a step up from your program leadership role?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we've got 3 schools or 3 campuses. On each campus, there's a set of program leaders running the programs on each campus. And then those program leaders then report to a deputy director. So in my current role, I've got 4 program leaders reporting to me regarding the programs within my department.
You run the teaching for, that's pretty impressive. You'd have a big faculty that reports to you then, wouldn't you?
It's about 24 people, of which 22 is academic and then 2 is administrative.
It's not a bad ratio, actually. I've heard of much worse ratios.
No, definitely. We're really blessed with that.
Yeah. Are they embedded in your unit, or are they sort of centralized?
No, they are part of the school.
Okay, I think that's something that is really, really valued. So we're merging with the University of Adelaide in 2026, and they went through a bit of a process a couple of years earlier. And one of the things that they had done was they would have, similar to you, they'd have professional or administrative staff in-house within their particular unit, often, just down the hall, helping them out. Each program had their own professional staff. And one thing that they did was they centralized it, and not just from marketing, management, accounting, everyone just went to business. They went everyone through to a central university system. And the feedback that I've heard from both academic and professional staff was not good.
That sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah. And it was all about, well, this is going to be more efficient and we'll save money. But it's had the opposite effect. It's meant that academic staff who cost universities a little bit more money per hour to hire found it so difficult to find any help that they were wasting their time doing these tasks rather than producing research which build the fame of their university, because they're a very heavy university, research focused university. So when they were talking about the consultation process of creating Adelaide University, that was a big thing that came through with the feedback was, please start embedding professional staff into our units, because I can approach this person one-on-one and I can have a direct relationship with them and solve the problem so much quicker than an anonymous email.
And admin staff is so underappreciated in the academic sector.
Agree. Yeah.
And one of the first things I always tell someone new in my team, person A and B are two admin staff, treat them with more respect than you're going to treat me or my boss or the team, because they are going to make your life easier.
Great administrative staff, it really can make or break a place, that's for sure. We have, ours are currently centralized at the business school level, but in my research institute, we have plenty, and they are, I think highly skilled people. And they're the ones who get a lot of the stuff actually done. Whenever students ask me a question, I say, I'm just the guy who can teach you marketing. You need to ask, so-and-so. They actually know how the place works. I agree with you. They should, they're definitely, So with, on the teaching side of things, one thing I found really quite interesting was you hadn't just, walked into a course that someone else had created, which is kind of the role that I find myself in. I've tried to naturally make improvements to it and add my little style and flair to it. But you created an entire course by the looks of it in brand management. Is that right?
Yes, I was very fortunate when I moved into my program leader position. That's when we recurriculated. That's when the school split. So I was involved in helping with the new marketing degree to develop that. And part of that, I had the opportunity to redevelop brand management as well as digital marketing, because back then we didn't have digital marketing as part of the programs.
And brand management makes sense, leveraging off your expertise from your master's and your PhD. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were the right man for the job there, that's for sure. How did it feel to create a new course? Because I've never experienced this before, right? So if I was to undertake this at some point, or someone else who's listening is about to do this, what should they expect?
The first thing you need is the content. And I think that was the biggest challenge, to find a textbook or to find a publisher that can create a textbook for you for this new course. I think that was the biggest challenge for us. And sometimes you do find the content, but it's pitched at a different level. It's like a second year module, but the content is pitched at an honors level. For example, when it comes to brand management, Keller and Arca is like the go-to guys, but those textbooks are pitched at a much higher level than our brand management course is currently at.
Yeah.
And I think part of the challenge, that was a challenge, and part of the solution we identified. We're currently going again through a recalculation process, and we're going to move brand management to the final year because it is actually a lot more complex.
I think our brand management's in the third year now as well, but I'm pretty sure when I started here, it was a second year course. So yeah, we've discovered the same thing that you have. Mm-hmm. I found also something really quite interesting that you'd done, which was something called Ensuring My Success. And so it's an at-risk student identification tool. I've heard of these before. I've never used one. So I'm really curious about this one.
Okay, so in our institution, part of the must-dos within teaching and learning is you have to identify your at-risk students. And it used to be a very demotivating, demoralizing thing because the student scored bad on a test. Now he gets a letter or an email, you're at risk. So we created this, it's in essence a Google form. So the students get the Google form link, and it's putting it sort of in their court. It's not you're at risk. What can I change to ensure my success? So during that, and it's not just the at-risk students that can complete that. We actually encourage all our students to complete that. And the questions are structured in such a way to get them thinking as to why did I perform as I did during this assessment? Is it I'm not going to class? Maybe I don't have a textbook. Just to get them thinking about their own success.
Yeah. And have you gotten feedback from this from students and they've enjoyed it?
Yes. Our feedback is actually a lot higher. Way back when we identified students, usually you send a mail, they need to come and see you and respond to the mail. Response rate is like 5 to 10%. Whereby with the EMS form, the response rate is a lot higher.
Yeah. I mean, that's remarkable because especially early on in a program, right? Maybe you're a first semester or second semester student, or you're doing a course that's, aligned to your discipline. If you're a marketing student, you have to do accounting, and it can really hurt you because you have to pay for your higher education fees. So that's a detriment to begin with. And then it can hurt your GPA at the end of your program. So this sounds like an incredible tool if you can help people identify that they're at risk in a nice way, I suppose, and get them to improve. So the system works by flagging someone who's not doing so well from their first assessment, and then how does it help them improve for the rest of the semester?
As part of the form, there is an option at the end. Okay, what am I going to do to ensure my success? I'm going to schedule an appointment with the lecturer, or I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And if they tick they want to schedule an appointment, there's an option. Okay, here's the contact details, and it gets sent through to the lecturer. And I think what's also nice about this tool, way back we identify at-risk students based on specific modules. But a lot of times your real at-risk students are the ones who are struggling in more than just one module. So with this tool, you kind of get a bird's eye view of the school, and you can then easily identify the students that really need some help.
Yeah, and is this embedded into your university website now?
Currently, it's just school-based. It's something we started last year.
Yeah,
we'll probably roll it out next year to the rest of the faculty, or that's the plan.
Yeah, this sounds great. Is this in line with your, you have the research team that focuses on, scholarship of teaching and learning? Are these people involved by the sounds of it?
Not currently, but that's a good avenue to consider.
Yeah, because if they're publishing in this space, this sounds like a great tool that more people should be aware of.
No, definitely.
Yeah, because it really can have imagine you're not doing so well and you're down in the dumps, and, people are, they can beat up on themselves if they don't feel like they're achieving. So if you can identify that, help them to succeed, you're likely to build that momentum. And it also means that they're less likely, I guess, to drop out after that semester. Have you found in enrollment rates or retention rates, I guess, or re-enrollment, I don't know the right term for it, but people continuing their program, has those percentages increased?
I think it's too soon to tell. We only started with it last year. We'll definitely look into that, whether it had a positive effect.
I suspect it would. Yeah, I really do. Because, if you're I'm not going to quit because I'm doing well, but if you're not doing well, then you lose that confidence and that motivation. So I have a feeling it's going to help you with retention rates for students, and, that helps the university, right? But it helps them and their life.
No, definitely. And even if they don't make contact after the form guided them through a thought process just to identify what might be the problems.
Yeah, that's true. So you've actually made them stop and pause and reflect as well. So you are still publishing, which is hard to do. Given I'm guessing you still have a teaching load yourself, but you then also have a lot of leadership and staff sort of management roles because you're looking after this discipline. How do you find time to attend conferences, to manage staff, to make sure that you're good at teaching yourself and help identify at risk? You're doing so much. How do you manage to juggle all of this?
I've only been officially in the role since middle 2022, but then I was just acting. Then I still had a full teaching load. As of this year, I only guest lecture, and I do have postgraduate students, but I don't have a full teaching load, so I must say that helps. Yeah. But to answer the question, I still don't have the answer yet. It's a juggling act, figuring it out. I must say, now that I know the ins and outs of the role, last year there was a lot of things I still need to learn, and that jeopardized my research output quite tremendously. This year, I know what to expect, so I can better manage my time. And collaboration, I think that's the key. When it comes to research, I really enjoy the stats part. So I found people within my school which enjoys the literature part. I actually think they're just scared of the stats part. So that's why they opt for the lit and one right together. I think collaboration is the key. to find key people to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. People with complementary skills. Yeah. So if you're good with numbers and the stats, then yeah, finding the other side of it. I always find the big thing with journals a lot of the time is that narrative. So why should we care about this research? That tends to be your numbers can all be fine and you know the literature really well, but often the feedback is, why does anyone care? So who's good at that? And so I deliberately, especially earlier on in my career when I could not tell you who would care, I definitely tried to team up with other co-authors who were much better at finding a story, I guess. So yeah, I completely agree with you there. So you do still teach, but you said you do guest lectures mostly, which is pretty fun. I kind of liken that to being the fun uncle. Like, so you don't have to be the parent, you don't have to change the nappies, you don't have to worry about feeding them or staying up and making sure they sleep. And you get to come in there, you get to play with them, throw them around, be that cool uncle, and then you get to leave. So I love it.
I love that analogy.
Oh, good.
and from the get-go, I told myself I don't want to lose touch with the teaching. Because to be brutally honest, when I landed the role, I had imposter syndrome like you won't believe.
Really?
We sit in these big meetings and there's people around me who's talking about retirement. They've been in management for 20 plus years. And over a beer one night with a friend of mine, he highlighted, okay, but remember, who's closer to the core business? Who has actually lectured? You don't need to feel out. You've got a unique voice that you can raise within those meetings. And that made all the difference. And that's also where I decided I have to still be involved with some guest lectures.
Yeah. Oh, I wish a lot of people would continue having that, because sometimes you can speak to people who, they progress up the, I guess the management route of universities, and they make decisions. And quite often you look at each other and you're like, someone who teaches wouldn't make this decision. And then you realize that they haven't done it for 5, 10, 15 years, and they don't understand the I guess, the production line aspect of it or the day-to-day ins and outs of the job. So I think it's quite refreshing to hear that you still want your toe dipped in the water so you can make more informed decisions, I suppose.
No, definitely. And the student population continuously change. I must say this year, I only managed to guest lecture once, and I feel a bit out of touch with the new student group we've got.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced a big change in student dynamics after COVID.
Okay. How do you sort of mean they didn't less interactive?
Less interactive, more entitled. Class attendance is horrific.
Yeah.
It's
Is everything recorded now? Everything's recorded and they watch it online, or?
We moved away from that. During COVID, we did record online, but now you have to attend. But some of them just show up for assessments. How's your class attendance?
Are they moved towards technology? So everyone's on their computers or iPads or something like that? Tablets?
No, not really.
No?
It's a weird group of students. I must say the first years is okay, and the second years, but our third years this year, we talk about our COVID babies.
Yeah, they definitely had a different, even high school experience to what everyone did. So you have, you're obviously doing a lot. Do you supervise by any chance? Do you do supervisions of masters, PhD students, anything like that?
Yes, currently I've got 2 PhD students.
Yeah.
I used to supervise a lot prior to my previous promotion. At one point, I think I had 4 students submitting during the same month, and I told myself I'll never do that again.
That sounds
so currently I'm very selective as to who I supervise, and it has to be within my field of expertise.
Yeah. It's a lot goes into theses. I don't know how you manage to supervise 4 and get them to submit in a month. That's
I never want that time over again.
Yeah, I don't know how you kept your thoughts straight because you'd be like, your whole brain would be in one thesis and then you'd have to change to another.
And I thought I had good time management because the plan was two to submit, I think it was 2018 and two 2019. And then stuff happened in the two students' lives and they had to push to the next year.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, I mean, yeah, I think your approach of where you tried to balance them out and things are unpredictable, but yeah, it is still fun to supervise and, teaching big courses is really fun. But then teaching student research skills and you get to know them as humans by the end of it, like even more so, right? You get to know their families, their partners, like what they want from life. It's a different relationship with a
It is a whole
master's.
different relationship.
Yeah. And I think
And I
it's,
must say, I enjoy the PhD supervision the most. During the masters, that learning curve, like that's just 6 months. It's horrible, and to send back those rare documents, lots of comments.
yeah.
But when they move to PhD, it sort of plateaus. And I must say, I've been very fortunate. After 6 masters that I supervised, 4 of them did their PhD with me, and the 5th one is currently busy with a PhD with me. So we're over that learning curve. So it's a bit easier.
Yeah, you kind of get the reward for all that effort up front then, don't you?
Definitely.
It's really funny because your brain tricks you sometimes, and I have to tell my brain that it's tricking me. So I'll be giving feedback to. I've got 2 master's students at the moment, and they're very new. One just passed their proposal, and the other one still writing their proposal together. And you pick up the same feedback from both of them, and your brain's telling you, "I've just told you this," and you have to realize that it was the other one, or that's something that you've told 3, 4, 5 other students before, and like you have to keep reminding yourself that this is a new person, you haven't told them this before. But all your brain sees is like, why am I seeing the same error again? Why does it keep popping up? I don't know, that might just be me.
No, definitely.
So you do like some really cool stuff, especially because you do not just sit in your office, which I find kind of refreshing. You engage with industry, quite often with local entrepreneurs, and there's a particular wine estate as well, which I know if I try to pronounce it, I'm going to get it incorrect. But I think that's really kind of cool that you aren't just thinking, oh, okay, I just need to make sure I teach, or I need to manage courses and programs and campuses, and I don't just need to publish, but I want to have an impact on the world as well. Like, is that something that you're quite passionate about, or that you've always wanted to do?
I think that links with my teaching philosophy back then, the authentic learning, implementing real world problems and solving real world problems. So of the companies that I've worked for, they've been involved in our marketing programs one way or another. Middleflow Wine Estate, we've worked with for 2 years. So during COVID, we had alcohol prohibitions in South Africa. So
Really?
for a long time, no one was allowed to sell alcohol. The government reasoned it overcrowded our ER rooms. And after that, the whole wine industry took a big knock. And the wine farm reached out to us, and we helped them with some branding and marketing ideas. The next year, I wanted to get another company in, and the guy phoned me immediately when he saw the advert. He's like, I don't know what your plans are, but we need to do this again.
I mean, that's
a
huge...
to get industry involved and to show students what's happening out there. And I think the most rewarding thing is to see how they implement the ideas and how it works.
Yeah, it's a huge endorsement, the fact that they were banging down your door to come back again.
No, that was quite nice. And myself is really passionate about wine. So.
Yes. Ah, right. I've not had that much South African wine. I do really love wine. I have a cellar under my house. I bought a whole bunch of, being South Australian, it's mostly Barossa and Coonawarra and stuff like that. That will hopefully age pretty well. Tell me about South African wine. I'm quite curious because, it's not that common in Australia.
I think we really need to hook you up with some South African wine. I think we've got probably the best wine in the world. I've traveled to Europe quite often, and I've always been disappointed with wine that I buy there. And I think it would probably be a bit more expensive if you buy it over there. Like in South Africa, it's fairly cheap to buy a really good bottle of wine. You can get a decent bottle of wine for like 100, 200 rand, which I don't know what the exchange rate is currently, but it's fairly cheap over here.
Yeah. And what sort of grape varieties are common?
We are famous for our red wines. So we've got
Yes.
Pinotage, Merlot. Our Merlot is world famous. Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz.
Okay.
We also have white wines, but the red ones are probably the most famous.
All right. I think that's going to be my mission in the next week or so. I'm going to head down to my local bottle shop, hunt down some South African wines.
Definitely.
I know the winery that you have now worked with, so I'll see if I can find anything from then, but I'll let you know how I go. And Merlot, I heard. I do like a good Merlot. And yeah, Merlot. Because it's getting a bit warmer here. So we're in spring and we're starting to head towards summer. So a lighter bodied red like a Merlot would be pretty good.
Cool.
That sounds really fun. So you are super active within your university community as well. So you host or you attend a whole bunch of different conferences. Is it Stratifica? The conference there?
Strategica.
Yeah. Did you want to tell me a little bit more about that one? I wasn't quite sure what that was.
Okay, so recently we had a very nice trip. I've been searching for a double barrel conference for very, very long, meaning two conferences that are close enough geographically, but also close enough time frame so that you can do it in one trip. And this year, that dream came true with a conference at in Poland at the University of Czechoslovakia. And then from there, we went to Romania the following week, which was Strategica. Strategica was a fairly smaller conference, especially compared to ANSMAC. I think there was about 100 attendees. Okay. And I must say, I really enjoyed connecting with the people at the smaller conference. I think the connection there it's so much more intimate. Even though it was a bit more general, there was only one marketing track. But yeah, the connections I made over those 2 weeks was life-altering. We've signed MOUs and Erasmus exchange agreements. I can't wait to go back next year.
Wow, that's a huge endorsement of that conference. So it's a broad business-based conference and there's a marketing track within it?
Yes, and this year the theme was sustainability. So there was a big drive for sustainable marketing, sustainable business practices. Yes, so within the conference there was, I think, 2 marketing tracks. Yeah. So it's marketing, business, and I think there was some HR, industrial relations also involved.
Okay, and so is it like most other conferences where it changes location every year?
No, this one is in Bucharest every year. It's hosted by the Romanian Bank. So the first day is usually at the Romanian Bank. Spectacular venue. They took us on a tour in the Romanian Bank as well. They refer to the Palace Bank. It's massive, the ceilings, and you get to hold real gold bars worth millions of euros. It was a truly amazing experience.
Yeah, no, that sounds incredible. I've never been to Romania, actually, so I am going to Google that as well. I think that's also like, yeah, I hope other people get a lot out of these podcast recordings, but I certainly do as well. I walk away from it with a to-do list because I just learned so much from people.
Romania was amazing, and I think for a South African, it was fairly cheap to go to Romania. Way back when I went to Australia, it felt expensive from a South African point of view. Whenever you go to Netherlands or Germany or France or the UK, it's expensive to go there. But in Romania, it felt almost like if you convert it back, a beer, it's sort of the same price. A meal is about the same price.
All right. I'll definitely have a look at that one. So I think what's kind of, and you alluded to it as well, that these small conferences have a really good networking opportunity because there are fewer people there, but the people that are there are all interested in the same thing. Has that helped you build those connections with other faculties, other universities? Because I've seen you and your team and like visit and present at other universities. Is there
Yes.
connections there?
Yes, the one connection that we had is Prof. Sebastian Kot at the Poland University. Now, Prof. Kot has worked with us for 9, 10 years already as an extraordinary professor. So that was a really easy connection to make. Prof. Christian in Romania, however, I had a virtual relationship with him for 4 years. He's been helping us with examiner reports and moderation. And when I went to Poland, I reached out to Christian and asked whether he can hook us up with some guest lectures. Then he suggested the Strategica conference, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
But I think the smaller conferences, the interpersonal connections are easier. I must say, ANSMAC is still probably among the top 2 conferences I attended because of the wide variety of marketing-specific people there. No matter who you talk to, there's a marketing link. But the smaller conferences got another intimacy to them.
Yeah, absolutely. For the first time ever, I went to the Marketing Science Conference because it was in Sydney. So, short flight, couple of hour flight for us. Most of the time it's in the US, I'm pretty sure. So that was over 1,000 people. And there was 26 simultaneous tracks or something like that.
Sure.
And yeah, so the first day, a lot of the keynote speakers, which were just running all of the time, they drew big audiences in the auditoriums. But I didn't like the fact that each of the sessions drew maybe 1 or 2 other people, and quite often they were the other presenters. And so you weren't able. Yeah, I found it not a great way to actually tell the world about your research. And they asked us for feedback afterwards in their questionnaire. So that's what I told them, because you were competing against big name professors at the same time and 25 other tracks, and it just, yeah, I didn't quite like the organization of it. Yeah, but with ANSMAC, I think there's usually about 5 or 6 other tracks, and they keep the keynotes separately, either in the morning or the evening, differs year to year. And you're not competing against the special guest or the headline name, so to speak.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I guess the goal is you have to become the headline name one day. Yeah, I love that. Like, so what I've seemed to see of is you seem to be so team orientated, which is really nice. Like, quite often if I visit universities, I guess that's funding issues. They'll invite just me, or vice versa. If we invite someone to visit the institute and we pay for flights and accommodation or whatever, it's usually just one person. But you seem to, do you seem to travel as teams, your department, or have I misread that?
There is definitely a notion to travel more as a team. Initially, I told the team that I traveled with now, I actually like to travel alone because I think I network better when I'm alone. But this whole team dynamic worked out so well, and it was very strategic from our side because all 3 people that went with me is also on the verge of applying for full professor, and one of the big things they are pushing in the Northwest University currently is international collaboration. So all 3 of them still needs that as well. So it made sense to make a whole big trip out of it. And I think we made enough connections that each one of us can benefit from it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you are putting aside your personal preferences for the betterment of your team. That's fantastic. Because, yeah, you really are playing that role of facilitating these collaborations, which are going to benefit your department. Yes, there's that little bit of like selfishness there that we all sort of have, but it comes from a really good place of, you have 3 staff and they're aspirational as well, and they also need to kick a few goals. So if you can help them in that way, I think that's really cool. So you said, I think earlier, that you have roughly 26 staff, if roughly, give or take. Do you conduct annual performance reviews with your staff?
Yes, there's basically three instances a year that we meet with staff, or that I must meet with staff. Usually it's at the beginning of the year, which is task agreement. What are you planning to do? Or what do I expect you to do this year? At the beginning of the year, it's the mid-performance review. How's it going? Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there any targets that needs adjustments? Why? And then at the end of the year is the final performance review. Did you do what we set out to get done?
Yeah. And are they, I'm guessing the big blocks are things like, and it depends because everyone has different allocations, but I'm guessing it's teaching, research, and then like engagement or something like that?
Community engagement. So
yeah.
how do you play a role within your local community, and then also the academic community as a whole?
Yeah.
And then also an administrative or a leadership portion, committee involvement, attending certain meetings, stuff like that. And I must say, these processes is usually a very paper-based process. Here and there, a manager will call in a team member to explain further what they meant on the papers. But from my research, I'm really passionate about internal branding and how to build your brand from the inside out. And I saw these opportunities as ways to really connect with the team, to delve deeper. And every year, like the first year when I did my task agreements, staff was like, what the hell is going on? We don't know what, because we usually play some sort of a game. Because I've realized the moment you get someone to relax and have fun with them, they open up so much easier. I've done so many interactions with them that I can actually stop doing the games because the personal rapport and just openness is already there.
Yeah. It sounds, that sounds like a working strategy that you want to build the relationships with them so they're more open and honest with you about discussing, I guess, what they've done well, but also what they need help with.
Yes, and I wanted to move past the interview answers.
Okay.
I always joke with them, specifically at the beginning of the conversation. I'm like, okay, that's an interview answer. Let's delve a bit deeper. And I've realized, I can't remember exactly the theory, but if someone is playing a game, they can only pretend for, I think, like 15 or 16 minutes. Then you see the real person. So like last year with the mid-year performance review, we played minute-to-win-it games. And I had linking questions with each of the games they played. And the really deep questions were well past the 15-minute mark. And then you get the real answers. You don't get the interview answers anymore. And that's where you build the trust relationship.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like that way, like your team, you build a real community with your team. Like the Lego building sessions, the marshmallows on the spaghetti, for example. It sounds like a good community to work with because and your role as leading this community, I guess you do take quite seriously, and you try to build those bonds. Because I guess, do you think it helps bring other staff together? So I guess it helps them open up to you, but do you think it brings them together as well?
No, definitely. They can't wait to chat about what they did or how they played the game afterwards. It's really a fun, engaging experience. Like with the minute-to-win-it theme last year, I kept score of everyone. And at the end of the year, during our year-end function, the top people in each of the games played against each other. So it's really creating this nice team dynamic. This year, I haven't even posted the photos yet, but the theme for my final performance reviews this year was Toy Box. And they had to bring along toys they grew up with. And I brought along toys that I grew up with. Like one of the things I made them do is we played swing ball. I don't know if you're familiar with swing ball. It's a pole with a tennis ball attached to a string to the pole.
Oh, yep.
Play. And at one point I tell them, okay, switch hands. And then the prompting question is there something within the job that you feel like you're playing with the wrong hand? And just that playing environment really opens up barriers. If you have fun together, if you think of that's how people make friends, or that's how kids make friends, if they play together.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're spot on with the people can only fake it for a short amount of time. And that's why I think these like the long format podcast interviews is so good, because I get to understand people, I think, a little bit deeper than if I just said, hey, talk to me about brand personalities, for example. Like, you can just talk about your research and I won't know who like Re-an is by any means, or what makes you who you are. And I think that, for me anyway, and I think the audience is better to understand who you are and where you come from and learn from that. So I've spent heaps of time with you already, so I really very much appreciate everything. I have a couple more questions, if that is okay.
Yes, go ahead.
You might have a favorite marketing book that you'd want to recommend to people. Anything that comes to mind?
I think when it comes to marketing, there's a few, but if I can highlight two, the one that sparked my interest, Consumer Behavior by Schiffman and Canuck. I think there's been several versions thereof. We still use it in our consumer behavior courses. And then, as I mentioned earlier, David Arca is the father of branding. He wrote a book, I think in the early 90s, Building Strong Brands. I absolutely love that book, and I think it was altering for brand management and how we look at and measure brand management. Or not brand management, brand equity, and how we approach brand management. So
yeah, you're right. They certainly gigantic shoulders we all stand on with their names, that's for sure. So you've got a really cool perspective in terms of you work with undergraduate and postgraduates, students you've had before. You've also had masters and PhD students when they're higher degree by research kind of candidates. And you also then work with those final year students and local entrepreneurs with and businesses. What advice would you give to people who are looking to get entry level roles, whether it be in academia, so your masters and PhD students, about how to get into, I guess maybe it could be context specific for you in South African universities, or get their first entry level marketing role if they were looking to go out into industry? What would your advice be to them?
One of the things I always tell my final year marketing students is to start searching for graduate programs. Because one of the biggest challenges when you start your first job is, if you look at the requirements, X number of years experience, and coming from university, you really don't have that. So graduate programs is the way to go. And usually students start searching for that too late. Most graduate programs in South Africa close August, September. So if you want to move into a graduate program after you graduate, you need to apply for it in the middle of your final year already. So graduate programs, definitely the way to go. And I always tell people also to go the extra mile. Search for that vacation job. Even if it's a waiter job, that's going to show an employee or an employer later on that you've got people skills. Go the extra mile in terms of upskilling yourself. Don't just do the degree work. Go to Google Garage or Udemy or whatever. Upskill yourself as far as you can. That also shows a different level of your perseverance and go-getter style, which is going to count towards your success.
Yeah, absolutely. Would those same skills be for someone looking to enter the academic world as well?
Yes, especially with the upskilling. Upskill yourself in terms of statistics. Go and search for ways to help lecturers. Volunteer to be a student assistant. I think it boils down to go the extra mile.
Yeah, I reckon that's it. Go the extra mile. Someone should put that on a t-shirt. I reckon that sounds pretty good. So the question that I like to finish all of these sort of podcast interviews with. And before we head off, I just wanted to say thank you. I've really, really enjoyed chatting with you, and I've learned so much, not just about you, but all aspects of university life and marketing life in South Africa. It's a real crash course for me, so I'm sure it will be for a lot of people as well. But the thing that I like to finish on is there any sort of life advice that you'd want to pass on? Maybe something that you've learned over the journey, or something you try to live by? Is there anything that you'd like to sort of share with the listeners?
That's also one of those questions that is difficult to answer just in one sentence. But I think something that I tend to live by is happiness is a choice.
Okay.
You decide whether you are going to be happy or not. There's a quote from, I think it was Henry Ford, that said, whether you think you can or when you think you can't, you're right. So the way you look at stuff is going to determine so much in your life. So happiness is a choice. Make that choice. Decide to be happy. If there's a challenge in front of you, are you going to sulk about the challenge, or are you going to be excited about the challenge? Make the choice to be happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Happiness is a choice. Sounds perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much for your morning, for spending your morning with us, Re-an. I've very much enjoyed every moment of it, and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to say it. It was fun. I can't wait to come to Assoc again, and I'll bring you some South African wine along.
Oh, I would be honored. I would love it. Perfect. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Bye. Okay, so I think... Hi everyone, Zac here again, and just a few quick reminders before you go. If you're listening to the podcast and are considering incorporating it into your secondary school or university courses, then please let me know and I can guide you through the process. If you're enjoying the show and getting some insights from it, then please leave me a 5-star review on your podcast listening platform. It would go a long way to spreading the word. If you know someone who would benefit from this content, then I would be thrilled if you could consider sharing this episode and its knowledge with them. And finally, thank you for becoming part of the community for this show.